Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into the mind of a genuine creative giant, Dan Houser.
Right, the co-founder of Rockstar Games.
Exactly. He's the driving creative force behind Grand Theft Auto, behind Red Dead Redemption. I mean, these
Well,
aren't just games, are they? They're huge cultural things.
absolutely massive. Often up there as like the best-selling, most acclaimed fictional worlds ever. It's kind of staggering.
So our mission today is to explore his philosophy, how he builds these enormous, narrative-heavy open worlds,
Yeah.
and this idea of 360-degree characters.
Yeah, and also his thoughts on writing, with AI becoming such a big thing, especially now he's got this new company, Absurdventures.
Right.
And for you, the listener, what we're really digging for here are the elements. How do you take all this source material? We're talking code, simulation, scripts that are just thousands and thousands of pages.
Fractal amounts.
And turn that dense stuff into something cohesive, something that hits you emotionally.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. We're kind of dissecting the DNA of the modern open world.
Okay, let's start right at the beginning then. GTA 3. That really felt like the birth of the modern sandbox, didn't it? What was the core innovation there that made Liberty City feel so alive, not just a backdrop?
Well, it was really a combination, I think, of two key design ideas. First up was systemic design.
Okay.
That's the techie foundation. Basically, setting up interlocking rules, game systems, so that the AI characters, the cars, everything, they react to each other and to you in ways that are predictable, but also kind of emergent.
Emergent, so like unexpected things happen.
Yeah, Hauser himself called it using really, really low-rent AI. It's about those little interactions, a cop chasing someone, traffic jams just happening, things that occur whether you're involved or not.
Right, so the system itself is kind of generating mini stories all the time.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
That emergent behavior is the magic trick. The world isn't just sitting there waiting for you. Hauser put it perfectly. He said the world exists almost independent of you.
Huh. Almost independent.
And that feeling connects right into the second concept, sandbox design. That's more about the player experience, the feeling you can do pretty much anything.
Total freedom.
Yeah, put that systemic chaos underneath that feeling of absolute freedom, and boom, you get that really powerful, immersive mix that basically defined a whole generation of games.
But hang on, doesn't that same complexity, that sort of low-rent AI, doesn't it risk breaking the immersion sometimes? You know, with glitches, weird physics, cars piling
Oh,
up.
totally, yeah.
Did they just accept that risk to get that feeling of life?
I think it was absolutely a conscious trade-off.
Mm.
They definitely prioritized the overall feeling of a living, breathing, world-over, like perfect, rigid, scripted reality.
Right.
The occasional glitch, the weird AI moment, that's almost a side effect of aiming for that dynamic feel. And this is where you get that inherent tension in their work, right? Balancing the open world freedom with needing a narrative structure. If the player can just do anything, why even have a story?
Yeah, good question. If the sandbox itself is fun, why force linearity?
Because, well, story is just incredibly compelling for humans, isn't it? Pure freedom is great for a bit, but it can get, I don't know, overwhelming, even meaningless after a while. Story gives it structure, not just emotionally, but mechanically too. It gives
Right.
context to all the chaos. It helps unlock games features gradually, pacing things so you're not just dumped in this massive world with 100 things to learn at once.
Okay, so you actually need the structure to make the freedom meaningful.
Exactly. You need the structure to give the freedom meaning.
And the sheer amount of work needed to support that structure, that scale. It speaks volumes about their work ethic, their culture, the writing alone.
Oh, the physical scale is just wild. Hauser mentioned, printing out the GTA IV script. It was about this high, he gestured, and GTA V was apparently even thicker.
Wow.
And that wasn't just the main story dialogue. It's thousands of lines of background chatter, stuff on the radio, TV shows in the game, all written to keep up that illusion.
That kind of ambition, it must have demanded constant innovation and probably a pretty intense work environment.
Definitely intense. I love that anecdote about how they fueled the creativity.
Oh yeah, the pizza.
Right. Locking themselves in a room with anchovies and onion pizza and crushed Diet Cokes. It's almost legendary.
It paints a picture, doesn't it? Controlled chaos, kind of like the games themselves.
Totally. And that intense focus, that ritual, it was apparently key to providing creative clarity for these enormous teams. We're talking like over 1,000 people sometimes. Everyone needed that single ambitious vision.
Okay, let's shift from the world itself to the people in it. This brings us to Hauser's big idea,
Huh.
the 360-degree character. What does that actually mean? What does it take from a writer?
It means you have to imagine the characters so completely, so consistently inside their own head that you could theoretically put them in any situation, even outside the game, and you'd know how they'd react.
Any situation. Wow.
Yeah. You define their morals, their principles, their flaws, their humor, how they handle romance. Everything. You're not just writing plot dialogue. You're writing a personality that has to survive potentially thousands of hours of unpredictable player actions.
How is that even possible? I mean, the player is constantly trying to push the boundaries, right? Make the character do weird stuff, exploit the game systems.
That's the absolute core challenge for the writers. The 360 model forces them to really define the character's emotional and moral boundaries. So even when the player's causing chaos, the character's core voice, their compass, however messed up it might be, kind of stays intact.
And the big test case for this early on was Nico Bellic in GTA V, wasn't it?
Nico was a huge step.
Yeah.
Maybe the most morally complex, even sort of defensible protagonist they'd done it to them.
Defensible. Interesting.
Hauser himself said Nico's darker, more reflective vibe. The immigrant, kind of looking sideways at the American dream, mirrored some of his own personal stuff, his own reflections at the time. Nico was the outsider looking in.
Yeah, and you get those moments of dialogue that really cut through the usual GTA mayhem, like that line about war.
Oh, war is where the young and stupid are tricked by the old and bitter into killing each other.
Yeah. That's not just a throwaway line. That's got real weight.
It really elevates it beyond just satire, doesn't it? But they didn't stop there.
Yeah.
For GTA V, they basically took that complexity and, tripled it with Michael, Trevor, and Franklin.
The three protagonists.
And the genius there was the relationship between them. That dynamic itself almost became another character in the story.
Right, the whole psychological angle. Michael as ego, Trevor as id, Franklin as super ego.
Yeah, pretty heavy Freudian stuff. But how did that actually play out in the game? Well, that structure forced conflict. You had Michael, the guy weighed down by his past. Trevor, just pure chaotic impulse.
Definitely chaotic.
And Franklin, the younger guy trying to figure it all out between these two extremes. By making you play as all three, every single mission, every decision, it's automatically riddled with internal tension. It makes the story inherently more dramatic.
Okay, moving on to what Hauser called his best thing, Red Dead Redemption 2. Why the West? What did that setting give him that GTA's modern cities didn't?
He talked about it allowing for a mythic seriousness. The Western genre itself, it deals with these big universal themes, right? Civilization versus wilderness, fate, the end of an era.
Yeah, big themes.
Unlike the sort of frenetic satire of Los Santos, the West let them tell these almost operatic stories about people searching for meaning amongst the violence. It's deeper, maybe more philosophical.
And Red Dead always seemed defined by taking big narrative risks. Even the first one, RDR1, that ending. That must have been a huge challenge technically and emotionally.
Oh, absolutely. Deciding to kill John Marston, the main character, it was kind of essential for the story's tragic weight to land properly.
Right, it had to happen for the story.
But then, from a game design view, you still need someone to play as after the main story ends, right? To finish side quests, get 100% completion.
Ah, yeah, good point.
So that purely mechanical needing an avatar post-game actually dictated a massive part of the emotional story, bringing in his son, Jack, to take over. The gameplay need directly fed the narrative tragedy. It's fascinating.
And then in RDR2, the main character, Arthur Morgan, he completely flips the usual video game arc, doesn't he? Usually it's weak character gets strong.
Exactly. Arthur starts out as the tough guy, the enforcer for the gang, and then his journey is this intellectual roller coaster, as Hauser called it. His whole world is loyalty to Dutch. It just crumbles.
It's a reverse journey.
Totally. Starts strong, and then the plot, specifically through using mortality, pushes him towards redemption.
The tuberculosis, that wasn't just a sad plot point then.
No, as a core mechanism. Hauser called mortality a great literary device. Yeah. It forces this character, who in gameplay terms feels kind of immortal, like most game protagonists.
Yeah, you just respawn.
Right. It forces him to confront the fact that he's becoming mortal. It's this long, drawn-out constraint that makes the abstract idea of redemption feel physical, real, and ultimately finite.
And that sense of reality, that depth, it wasn't just in the big story beats, it was in all those incredible little systemic details, too.
They were obsessed with those details.
Oh.
Things that deepened that 360-degree character idea. Arthur's hair and beard growing in real time.
I loved that.
Needing to clean your guns, animal carcasses actually decomposing. But maybe the most interesting one, linking back to the systemic stuff, was how NPCs would remember you.
Remember you? How?
Hauser called it narrative content that is also systemic and procedural.
Okay, break that down. What does that look like for the player? Is that why that guy in RDR2 is always shouting for Gavin?
That's a perfect example of the vibe, but the remembering mechanic is more like the system logs whether you were nice or mean to an NPC, maybe days earlier in game time,
Yeah.
and then later their dialogue towards you changes based on that memory.
Ah, okay, so it's not just a one-off scripted thing.
Exactly. It's procedural. The system generates the reaction based on your past behavior. And that tiny detail is pure narrative gold because suddenly every single interaction you have feels like it might have consequences. It raises the stakes. So now Hauser's moved on, launched Absurdventures. He's applying this whole philosophy to new worlds, right? What's the focus there?
Yeah, he's got a few new IPs in the works, still aiming for that depth, but outside the Rockstar umbrella, there's Absurdverse, which sounds like a comedic action adventure aiming to be a living sitcom.
Living sitcom. Interesting.
And then A Better Paradise, which sounds more serious. Dystopian, near future, dealing heavily with AI.
AI. Okay, and there's a specific AI character, Nigel Dave.
Right. Nigel Dave sounds fascinating. He's described as super intelligent, like knows almost everything. But Hauser insists he has zero wisdom.
Zero wisdom.
Yeah. He only sees the human world through the lens of the internet, basically. And he's just riddled with conflicts. He wants to be human, apparently. Wants to fall in love, have spiritual experiences. Things his pure logic just can't compute. Infinite knowledge, zero understanding. That's a recipe for conflict.
Exactly. The ultimate contradiction.
And that character seems designed for some serious satire. Hauser has said before that satirizing America is getting harder because reality keeps outpacing fiction, right?
Absolutely. He talked about how reality just becomes ridiculous so fast. And you see him leaning into that challenge with really extreme characters in his other projects, like the comic book American Caper.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, there's this Wall Street guy obsessed with living forever who, like, manually harvests bull semen for his weird health regime.
Okay, wow. That's specific.
And a woman who's so deep into online conspiracies, she literally sleeps in tactical gear. When reality gets that weird, he seems to think the satire needs to be even louder, more extreme, just to register.
Which inevitably brings us to AI and writing, large language models. Given his background building these huge script-heavy worlds, his take is actually quite moderate.
Yeah, surprisingly nuanced. He doesn't seem too worried about AI replacing genuinely good creative ideas. He does think maybe entry-level concept writers might get squeezed out a bit. But he points to this really crucial gap between what humans do creatively and what AI can do.
The gap. Tell me about that. He talks about the 95% versus the final 5%.
Right. He says LLMs can get you the first 95% of the way there. They can write sentences that make sense, dialogue that's functional, coherent.
Okay.
But that final 5%, that's where he says the magic is. The perfect rhythm, the unexpected word choice, the exact timing of a joke or a line that hits you emotionally. And he says that final 5%, that's actually 95% of the work.
Ah, I see. So the AI can do the bulk, but not the crucial spark.
Exactly. He just doesn't think LLMs are going to come up with magic.
Yeah.
It's the difference between functional and, well, art. It needs that human judgment, that refinement.
Which kind of loops back beautifully to that weirdest bit of emergent story in RDR2, the whole, have you seen Gavin mystery?
Oh, Gavin. Yes. That poor guy shouting for his friend Gavin constantly. That is pure systemic emergent weirdness. The internet went wild with theories, didn't it?
Totally wild. Did Hauser ever actually say what happened?
He did, sort of. He said the answer is somewhere between the guy having a split personality and just being in denial. Gavin was real, apparently, and either left or died, but that wasn't really the point.
The point was the mystery itself, the discussion.
Precisely. The goal was just to create something that players would talk about, debate, theorize over. Just like people debate characters or plot points in books or films. He apparently loved how the actors screamed the name Gavin with such commitment.
Huh.
That little detail, that desire to spark debate, it shows how the systemic side and the narrative intention can feed each other perfectly.
So if we try and zoom out, summarize Hauser's whole massive contribution,
Right.
What's the absolute key to his success, do you think?
I think it has to be that relentless, almost exhausting commitment to balance. Balancing the deep technical craft, the systemic design that makes you believe the world is real, with really profound, almost literary character exploration. That 360-degree method.
Technology and humanity, basically.
Yeah. And he seemed to connect it all back to life lessons. He mentioned learning from his father, just the importance of showing up, to be present, to go to work every day, to love creative things. Simple, but powerful.
And he had that great line about feelings, too, which his games definitely generate.
Oh, yeah. Feelings may destroy you, but they're the best thing we have. That's the payoff, isn't it? To build these incredibly complex simulations that are so vast, so detailed, that they actually generate real, intense, shared feelings in millions of people.
Yeah.
That's an achievement few creators in any medium can touch.
So let's bring it back to you, the listener. Hauser has this idea that maybe the meaning of life is to watch the universe and to comment on it in interesting ways.
To observe and comment.
Yeah. So if that's our highest calling, this act of watching and commenting, think about this. Hauser called George Eliot's Middlemarch the best novel in English. How does the art you consume, whether it's a huge morally gray game like Red Dead 2 or a classic novel like Middlemarch, how does it shape the way you observe and comment on the universe around you? What stories are helping you critique and understand your world?
That's the kind of depth only truly great storytellers prompt us to think about.
Thank you for taking this deep dive with us. We'll see you next time.